If you watch that game and it's not your job, I tip my cap to you because that was not a particularly fun experience. In this post-game show, we will talk about the few decent hockey things that happened in that one, and if we even care that the Avs lost this game in a blowout. Let's start the show. Welcome in to what is technically the 8th Losers Lounge in a row for the Colorado Avalanche, if we're counting all the way back to last season. Brought to you, of course, by Toyota here in the Toyota Lounge with your Front Range Toyota dealerships. Yeah, it is what it is. We are presented by Bet365 for this post-game show. Look, I'll start this out the same way I start every preseason post-game show, as Eric is just waking up from that nap of a hockey game. The actual result of the game doesn't matter.
No.
We don't care. You shouldn't care about the actual result of the hockey game. I think there are some things that you should be frustrated with in this game, and we'll get into that. But the scoreboard, who cares?
I agree. Like told you in the pregame, I really don't care about your record in preseason. I really don't care about the final score of a game, but I do like, and I do care about the process though of what's happened in that game. You know, for some people, because you're all on a different playing field. There's some guys that have been in the league for 15 years. There's some guys that have been in the league for 10 years. They're superstars. It's a little different for a guy that's trying to make a nest or having a place on the opening night roster. That's where my problem lies. We'll talk about it, but that's where I have a hard time with a game like tonight.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more. Final score is ultimately 6-1. I'll be honest with you, this was not even remotely close to an NHL caliber game. Even yes, Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen and Cale Makar were in the lineup, but that was not NHL hockey at all.
Both sides.
Yeah,
I mean, I forget about the lopsided score. The puck went in on one side, didn't go in on the other side, but it wasn't like electric hockey. It wasn't high-paced hockey. It wasn't I'm talking about the Golden Knights. You know what I mean? Like, it was not like, oh, wow, they dominated. Because if you look at the score, you're like, oh, they must have dominated. It was just one of those boring, awful hockey games.
They're 7 minutes into the game, and there have been 4 penalties.
And again, you talked about it in the pregame, and I think you just refs watch our show. They do. They just watch our show. And they were like, you know what? We're going to screw Rudo tonight.
Let me ask you, how does watching a game like that feel as a scout? Because you're there, you're trying to gauge players, you're trying to see maybe there's a guy on waivers we can pick up from these teams, and you watch 25 minutes of special teams, which none of these dudes are actually going to play.
Exactly.
How do you even analyze a player in a game like this?
It's hard. It's hard, and that's why, I don't know. I think you see it amping up a little bit more by the end of this week. You know, those games a little bit more.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't look at the list tonight. Couldn't tell you if there was a lot of people at the game. I'm talking about teams.
There probably wasn't a ton, but
yeah. But the next two though, usually you see guys hitting the circuit a little bit more, and then I mean, it's hard. It's hard to evaluate. It's just, I mean, it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's hard to evaluate. That's for sure. And then as a coach, it was a long day, I think, for both coaches tonight. I think they were looking at that clock and kept looking up, and the clock wasn't going down. It was a tough one to watch.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But we'll do our best to try and give you something of value from this hockey game. Let's start here. The Avs do score 1 goal. It is a power play goal. MacKinnon and Makar get their points. Inola with the finish in the middle.
I get it. Finish. I get it.
So, if you wanted MacKinnon and Makar to get points and look like good players, they did for a little bit.
30 seconds, yes.
And then they said, okay, we got our points. Let's cruise around for the rest of this game.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, honestly, like I said, and again, Inola, great, awesome, scored, awesome. But reality won't be in that spot in the power play when the season starts. So
won't even be anywhere close to the power play in season. So
that's just the way it is, right?
the reality of it. But hey, at least your guys said when we want to, we can produce, right? At least when it comes to the power play, which Mikko was also on that power play, even if he didn't get a point on it.
Yep.
At times tonight, I thought the power play looked okay. You saw a nice one-timer from Mikko on a cross-crease pass. You saw MacKinnon trying to create. Yes, don't take anything too seriously. And part of that is when you look at them and they turn up the wick for 15 seconds, you can see it's still in there.
Yeah, Mikko could have given Kovalenko a tap in too. Remember, like that play there. So, I mean, you know what? They touched the puck.
Kobe probably should have finished that, but we'll talk more about him later.
You'll get what you want to get out of a game like that if you're Mikko and Nate and Kale.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, you didn't get injured. That's one thing.
That's probably the biggest plus of the game.
Biggest plus.
Let's be honest.
Two, you got out there. You felt the game situations. You felt the length of a game. Like I talk about that all the time. Very important. Get your body back into that kind of rhythm. I mean, those are the positives, right? A lot more negatives than positives. But,
for sure.
For those guys, I think it was more like, like you said, get out there. And sometimes a puck follows you, gives you different bounces here and there, and you walk out with a 4 or 5 point night. But overall, leave those guys alone. And like you said, they didn't get hurt. Let's move on.
The only other thing I'd really talk about in the positive end, Avs' best possession player tonight, Calvin DeHaan.
Yep.
And look, there wasn't a ton of 5-on-5 time played tonight. There's not a ton to take from this. But you're talking about a veteran guy. You have that story with the battle of the 4 defensemen for those bottom 2 spots with the Avs. Eric, I know you've iterated a lot. All 8 are going to play, but that doesn't mean you can't put yourself in one of those top positions as one of those guys.
100%.
DeHaan hasn't played quite as much as some of these other guys this offseason. He goes in. It's a bad night for the Avs, but he looks okay.
And I always say, you last that long in the NHL because you do something right. Right, and then he's a guy that defends well with his stick, stay-at-home guy, make the simple play, keep it simple, stupid, right? I always say that. And when you gather the information like that and you grasp that concept like Calvin has in his career, then you tend to put yourself in decent situations where you don't put your partner in the soup. You don't put your wingers in different or centermen in different situations, tough situations. What I mean by soup is, in a hot mess.
Yep.
Right. And then keep it simple, play the game, defend with your stick, be in the right area. And he's different than the other guys, and that's why I like Josh. Josh is different than the other guys. So you got to bring something, and of course, when you're going to have the real penalty killers and all that stuff, he excels at the penalty killing. Therefore, it'd be interesting to see, with 3 other guys that are going to defend with you this season, see what you can do on the PK. And, there's a guy that takes pride in the PK. So, yeah, that's a positive tonight for sure. Yeah, well said by you.
Just 5 shots against with the Haan out on the ice.
Sure.
20 attempts for Colorado in that same stretch.
Yeah.
And he ends up getting scored on twice while he's out on the ice. But you look at those goals and you're watching Georgiev drop pucks and not on DeHaan, to say the least. Other things going on there. So I did want to throw that out there. And I do want to jump off and talk about that defensive battle a little bit after tonight. We saw Sam Malinsky look great the other night in an Avs loss to Utah. It feels like that put him kind of towards the top of that list. Eric Brandstrom struggled tonight.
Yeah, I like Eric Brandstrom. I'm not going to blow away, like 6 years or 5 years or whatever it is. 6 years watching him, then after a tough preseason night, I'm not. Bad luck on that. It just started with bad luck at the far blue, you know what I mean? And it's not like it was a bad pinch. The puck jumped over, and then he doesn't recover well. And then he comes back, then it's a ham sandwich, like I say all the time. And then he throws that pizza in the middle, right?
Yep.
I mean, just compounded mistakes by mistakes. And, it wasn't a good look, wasn't a good shift. But overall, like you said, he had a tough night. I thought he did good on other games. Tonight was a tough one. Again, wasn't the only one.
No.
Was not the only one. But yeah, I mean, you would have liked to seen a better performance by him.
Well, and I think it makes things interesting going into the last 2 games of preseason. You've had Malinsky, who's looked pretty good. We just mentioned Haan.
Yep.
Brandstrom, I thought, had looked good through a couple of preseason games. In this one, he had a bad one.
Yeah.
Shillington really has not looked particularly good in preseason so far. We've talked about how it's a bit of a bigger adjustment for him to the Avs systems. So I think there's still a good amount to play for, particularly for Brandstrom and Shillington in these last 2 preseason games.
I agree with you. Like, in the rank, all 8 are going to be here. No one's leaving.
Yeah.
But you're right. In the rankings, wherever you stack up, and I know what you said about what I said, which is everyone's going to play. We all agree with that.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. But I think it will be more situational. I've heard Coach Bednar say that, and who they're playing, what type of team are they playing, and I do believe it's going to come down to that, because I do believe they're all going to help out. But you're right. You also want to be in the right pecking order. You want to be towards the top. You want to make sure they dress you every night. And a game like tonight gives you the opportunity to gain trust and all that stuff. Maybe, I'm not saying that they lost trust in some players like that. I'm saying that maybe they didn't do themselves a favor when it comes down to the pecking order of 1 through 8. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. And again, Brandstrom having a bad night is not. Don't put that much stock into it. It's still a preseason game.
Absolutely.
It's still not meaningful hockey. And while there might be a competition for spots in there, you have to keep in mind the flow and setup of these games. The objective is not to play dominant, lock it in hockey. It's to figure out how to play in the systems on your new team. If you're someone like an Eric Brandstrom, to figure out what decisions you need to be making on the ice when to fit in to whatever the moment might be. Obviously, Brandstrom going to look back at particularly that pass from the defensive end and say that was dumb. But there's some other. I don't want anyone to take anything on either aspect. I don't think Brandstrom's bad game is a disaster and he should never play in the NHL again. Nor do I think Kovalenko looking good in this game has locked him into a top 6 spot indefinitely. So don't oversell it. I'll put it to you that way.
Don't oversell. And when it comes down to what they give up, 40 shots tonight. I mean,
it was
something like
lot.
That.
I think
whatever.
It was 35.
Yeah, something like whatever. Well, when it comes down to playing hockey, you hear that all the time. Coaches say 5-man units and be in sync and be on the same page. The 3 offensive guys and the 2 Ds. Very, very important. You didn't see any of that tonight. So it's easy to blame the Ds a lot of times, but sometimes it's even the forward just coming back, giving them the Ds in a better out instead of being behind the D, and then just coming back a little lower and being more in sync, being tighter, 5-man units. And you didn't see that tonight. It was a little bit of a mishmash. Everybody was all over the place. And when you play that way, preseason, juniors, exhibition, NHL, whatever it is, if you play that way, you're not going to have success. So, again, that was part of the problem tonight. You didn't see a lot of guys engaged in the play, not a lot of passion overall as a 20-man unit dressed out tonight. It was the heart rate did not go up much. It shows in the possession numbers, shows in everything, right? Somewhere, somehow, like, you don't put the working boots on. It doesn't matter if it's a preseason game or the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, the results are not going to be favorable for you. And tonight, it certainly wasn't favorable for the Avs. And again, it is a preseason game. There's no panic here. There's no, it's just call a spade a spade. It was just a bad night.
But before we do, we are also brought to you by those fantastic people over at UCHealth and their new Ready, Set, Co program. Eric, how you doing?
I didn't pass the test. Again, we'll talk about it. I'm supposed to get a little head start right now. I do have gotten a little bit of head start.
It's still preseason.
A little head start on them. Then we're going toe to toe with the Avs.
Well, there you go. It'll be fun. Make sure you join the Ready, Set, Co program yourself as well, because you just need to take care of yourself. You want to be healthy, and the goal of the Ready, Set, Co program with UCHealth and Coach Prime is to make Colorado the #1 healthiest state in the country. So get back to it. We used to be that. Make sure you're jumping in. doing your part with UC Health and the Ready, Set, Co program. Get Motivation Prime to get your butt up and get yourself feeling better, whether that's physical health, whether that's mental health, whether that's sleep health. UC Health has you covered. Go hit them up today with the link down in the description of the video. Or if you want to learn more, you can jump on over to uchealth.org/ready-set-co today and join the Ready, Set, Co challenge. Once you're taking care of your health with UC Health, make sure you are also feeling good when you're driving around the city in a Toyota. Go get yourself a Toyota at your local Front Range Toyota dealerships. Any kind of vehicle you need, Toyota has you covered. They've got trucks, they've got SUVs, they've got sedans, you name it, they make it. It's that simple. They also sell it too. That's how that works. I know. Crazy, right? Check out your Front Range Toyota stores for 17 different all-wheel drive vehicles, 16 different hybrid vehicles, which is the most of anyone. Go get with them today. A Toyota, the official vehicle of not just DNVR, but the Colorado Avalanche too. So jump on it. Go visit your local Front Range Toyota dealerships, including but not limited to AutoNation Toyota Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Again, Toyota, the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, and we have Gismo here at the rink. Giz, was it any more entertaining in person?
Rudo, that's a tough one to watch, buddy. And I know you guys are saying the same thing, but you want more, right? You're looking for a little bit more effort, and we just threw up Coach Bednar's press conference, and of course you're going to give the likes of McCarr and MacKinnon, Rantanen, they get a little bit of a pass. It's their first game really back at speed. But on the other side of things, I mean, there's a lot of Bednar made the comment. There'll be a lot of cuts made in the next 24 hours. And for the most part, I think that makes his decision a little bit easy, but just too many breakdowns there tonight, too many lackluster efforts, a couple of bad bounces. MacKinnon accidentally, knocks that one. He's trying to bat it away. Puck off skates in front of the net. So you can, it wasn't a 6-1 loss per se, but not pretty.
Did you, you got to be in the building. We got to be here. I took a little nap. Got to be honest. Rudo just woke me up, but Kale just, slapped me around. But how did it feel in the building? Like, remember we were talking about it this morning. We're like, oh my God, it feels real. It's national game. And, how did it feel in the building? Was it flat like it was here for us in the studio?
Yeah, it was good to start, right? There was a ton of energy in the building right off the hop, and then it plummeted very quickly. And one of the other things is and listen, I asked Coach Bednar about this as well, just too many penalties.
My God,
6 in the first period just kills the flow of the game, and I get that everybody's in preseason shape, trying to figure it out, trying to get, referees, linesmen included. But I didn't like a lot of the penalties that were called. And then there were some obvious ones that I would watch and I'd be like, oh, you're calling this, but you're not calling that. And Eric, that screws the guys up. They don't know what a penalty is at this point. It's like when you do that in the playoffs, it's the same kind of an idea. You just get confused as to what's actually happening. So there was no flow. There was really no flow to the game, and I think that unfortunately sucked the life out of the building a little bit. And there was a lot of early exits, which is a bummer because it was the most attended game of the preseason so far. But listen, again, it's the preseason. It's not a big deal. There's no reason for anybody to be, looking into this too deeply.
So if you had to pull some positives out of this thing, what stands out as something that the Avs find a reason that they played this game other than just being a 6-1 nothing burger?
I think that the picture is going to become a little bit clearer for Bednar on who he's going to want to, put with Middlestat. Kovalenko had some bright spots. Coach was very impressed with him, so that was a positive. I loved seeing that. I thought Calvin Haan played well on defense today. I think that's something that's very impressive. Saw him briefly after the game and got a nod. So, I think the bright spots there are the things that he knew he had answers to, reaffirmed themselves, right? And then the things where there were question marks, I think that made it pretty easy on him to make some pretty hard decisions, or make what might have been hard decisions now a little bit more simple.
Yeah, and look, regardless of whether this was a 6-1 game or not, there were likely a lot of cuts coming in the next couple of days anyway.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, things are a little bit more clear. So,
and interestingly, what they're going to do with their travel schedule, they're going to go right from Vegas to Utah. They're not going to come back here. Coach Bednar also said that those final 2 games are going to look a lot like what that roster is going to look like on opening night. So I really like that he's team building and bonding a little bit by making a road trip a little bit of an extension, not normally the case in preseason. So, you know, he's gonna whittle that roster down to pretty tight to where he wants it, and then give the guys a chance to have a little bit of fun on the road and spend some time together. And I think that's a smart move in the preseason, and him, you know, playing chess, not checkers.
On the way back to the studio, don't forget to pick me up. Don't fall asleep. Knock on the
That's
window.
right. I got to come get you. No, of course I won't forget you, buddy.
I appreciate that.
You know, the other takeaway for me was there were some bright spots, you know, on the man advantage. You know, that first power play that we saw, the regular guys moving the puck really, really well, right? Engaged. You saw that speed, and that's what kind of had everybody sort of there initially. But again, it trailed off pretty quick, and I think it was not necessarily what you would expect out of this game tonight. I thought that score was going to be flip-flopped. But, you know, preseason hockey, baby.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Hopefully the last 2, if they're actually bringing a real lineup, has a little more oomph to the play at the very least. But this one, anything else, Giz, or you got a story to write? I'm sure a riveting one for a game like that.
Don't expect a novel tonight. This one might be a little shorter than everything else we've done, but I'm sure you'll all understand. I don't feel like everybody wants to hear about 6 Vegas goals, so this one might be a couple of paragraphs rather than a novel, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I don't think there's going to be a lot to read on this one. The good news is, hey, nobody got hurt, like we said, and Kovalenko is an interesting developing story. So,
I'll tell you one thing: there was a lot of chatter about maybe just trying to do something and just taking the maybe the big boys don't play the third period. As soon as I saw the tweet come across that Celebrini had gotten injured, I was like, my gosh, what is happening right now? I'm going to be cautious. Nick Ricchetti and I are going to be very, very gingerly exiting the building today. We'll avoid
Don't let him
contact
drive.
with one another.
He does not know how to drive.
There will be no stairs. I'm going to put double seatbelts on. We're going to be very, very careful. Very, very careful.
All right, Giz, we'll let you go. Thank you for the update post-game from the rink. Make sure you go check out his piece tonight. And next time, make sure you're watching his Hockey in the Rockies from Morning Skate, too. Thanks, Giz.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We'll see you in a bit.
All right, so feels like the picture from in the building pretty similar to what we felt out here. Not the greatest game of all time.
But I tell you one thing, and okay, as crappy as this was, as poopy as it was, I don't want to say the word, there's always something that you, as a coach, you'll look at. And if I'm a coach tonight, what did Giz complain about right there? What did we complain about? The flow of the game, the penalties. Again, Jax, it's not me. It's those two. I'm not complaining. Just those two. Dave Jackson, friend of the show. Don't want him to think it's me. But when you have something like that, if I'm a coach, what I'm looking at is, okay, take Jean-Luc Foudy or take, whatever, Steinberg or Jason Poland, for example, You're not getting a lot of ice time because there's no flow to the game. Well, how do you react to that? Can you still play? I told you before, you heard me say it before. Playing 5-6 minutes a night, 7 minutes, it's not easy to do that in the National Hockey League. It is tough. You're sitting on the bench for 15, 20, 25 minutes. Then you get the tap on the back. You got to get out there. It is so hard. It's so tough. But some guys have mastered it.
Yep.
Some guys, Carrier, right? Why do you think guys are still freaking going after him? Because they can go like 10, 12, 15, 20 minutes on the clock where they don't play, then all of a sudden they're effective for a shift.
Yep.
It's not easy to do, but at some point, that's what you are in your development as a player.
Yeah.
You're not going to make it as Nathan MacKinnon. You're not going to make it as Mikko Rantanen. So if you're going to make it as that guy, well, tonight was a perfect opportunity. As much as of a ham sandwich that game was, you had an opportunity to show that, hey, when it is a crappy freaking non-flow game, I can be counted on.
Well, and let's get into this conversation because I know you want to be a little bit harsh.
Yeah.
You wanted to see more out of some of these guys.
I don't care about Mikko. I don't care about Nate, Kale. I don't care about Georgiev. I don't care about that. I really don't.
They have nothing to play for in a game.
There's nothing
like
to play for. You're playing for yourself, like I said, in a game like tonight. But if I want to show the Colorado Avalanche what he talked about the other day, and again, we use that line all the time here. You got to make them make decisions. Well, that's not just always on the positive side.
Yep.
A lot of times it's on the negative side. If I look at a game like tonight, or the last game, for some guys, I make decisions on the negative side because I'm saying they don't want to be everyday National Hockey League players. And I'm not bashing or being harsh on guys. I'm just being realistic on what I saw.
Yeah.
And if I'm a coach, I look at my GM and I go, I know we have spots, right? We talked about maybe 3 spots. Again, a guy like Parker Kelly, whatever, didn't play tonight, things like that. But if you're trying to make an impression and you want to stay here and play the National Hockey League level, which is a totally different lifestyle than the American hockey. I love the American hockey. You know that. Yeah. I praise it all the time. But at some point, if you want to be a full-time NHLer, there's things you need to do. And I didn't see enough. I don't want to be harsh. I look, and now I got to look at the Parker Kellys and all that kind of stuff. But I think what I do now is I go like this. And again, it's not but because of the score. You could have won 7-2, and I would have the same discussion right now if I didn't like the way those depth guys played.
Yeah.
You got to go like this. I go like this to my GM, and I go, hey, call in the pro scouts right now. And they got to be looking these next week or so, see if we can get some help on the waiver wire or something like that. I'm just being honest. Hey, listen, if you're not going to do it, somebody else is going to do it. And I think those decisions have been made. I think the last couple of maybe like, yeah, not quite there yet for some guys, right? And it's unfortunate because you're pulling for guys. You want guys to make it. It's the greatest feeling in the world to become an everyday National Hockey League player. But you got to show it. You got to want it. And when do you do that? Preseason games. Because how else are you going to make the lineup if you don't play in those games? And I don't want to hear, I only played 2 shifts. I told you that. I don't buy that. If you played 2 shifts and make it the greatest 2 shifts of your life, that's life.
For what it's worth, and kind of I think what you're alluding to with this conversation, the Avs' best forward possession line was the Belmar-Wood-Poland line. Now, how much of that was Belmar and Wood doing the heavy lifting there, and how much impact did Jason Poland actually have? Look, you say these guys need to stand out. I don't know that Poland stood out enough tonight.
I wanted to see more. And again, I'm not no punt. You know, I'm pulling for him. I am. You know that. But I want to see more. You know.
For what it's worth, better than someone like a Jean-Luc Foudy who got crushed in possession tonight. That Tynan Phillips Foudy line, probably not really an NHL realistic thing, but still, you want to see them excel in every opportunity.
But then again, that Vegas lineup's not an NHL lineup either.
That's
right?
true.
I mean, right? You know, so I mean, you know.
Yeah, is correct.
Just,
this is the story of this entire game is
Kale, I want more Kale. Like I just do. I'm being selfish right now. I wanted more for some guys.
Yep.
I don't care about the score. I really don't.
You didn't get a ton of that. And maybe we're being a little bit harsh here, but even someone like Inola, okay, he scores a power play goal. Cool. What did he do at 5-on-5? Not a whole lot this game.
For me, if that guy's going to play, he's going to be in the top 6. And clearly, I think we'll talk about it. But Kovalenko, it's a better option. I mean, it's a way better option when it's all said and done.
Yep.
I think he's the one that's kind of trending up like now. And like Giz said, you know, Bednar talked about him, stuff like that. And I think we all did, and I think everybody on Twitter did, and everybody sees it, that he's becoming more comfortable, becoming more a guy that it's going to start the season here, obviously, and then go from there.
Andrew in our Toyota chat asking, why hasn't Druin suited up yet? Why didn't Foodie play more? So Druin didn't suit up, I think, specifically because they wanted to give this opportunity to Kovalenko to play next to some of the big dogs, see what it might look like. Even if it's not 100% speed for Mac and Mikko or whatever, but you still get a look at what he could do with a line like that, potentially. And
I saw Jonathan this morning, big smile on his face. He's flying in practice. He's
fine.
looked good. He's fine, and he's going to play those next 2 games like Giz just alluded to. But, and somebody said, do I have time or do you have to jump in on something right now?
Unless you're going to go for 5 minutes.
No, I'm going to go for like a minute, 30 seconds. But Jean-Luc Foudy, again, I'm pulling for him too. You want to pull for guys like that from within, but you're asking, how come he didn't play more? Well, again, when there's like 72 penalties, and if you're not on the power play, you're not killing.
Well, I think this goes back to what you said earlier, specifically. You're making them make decisions, and through 3 preseason games, Foodie has probably cost himself playing time more than earning playing time.
And I'll tell you one thing. That's why I said to you, I'm going to say step in for a second. Mark Crawford, where we've had on the show, Crow, was my coach in the minors, and I told you that story before, and I'm not going to go at length here, but I didn't understand how to become a pro. I didn't understand it, and he kept scratching me, and then there was a game. We won 3-1. I played 1 shift. 1.
Yep.
I'm walking off the ice, and it was a heck of a shift. But I walking off the ice, and he said to me, he goes, that's how you play hockey, son. And I looked at him like, what is he talking about? And I looked at him the next time, like, I don't know, were you making fun of me? He goes, no. He goes, that was an unbelievable shift. If I ask you to play 1 shift, you play 1 shift. If I ask you to play 30 shifts, you play 30 shifts. But you're going to play them all the same way. And for me, I didn't see that there.
Yep.
So I don't care. He had a better opportunity tonight to be better than, I don't know, Parker Kelly or whoever's not dressed tonight. The guys that are fighting for that 4th line spot. Mission wasn't accomplished.
Well, I'll tell you what. You're probably not looking at a game like that and banking on it very much. So instead, do your banking with Premier Members Credit Union. It's getting more difficult to save money right now. That's why you have to start making smart money moves. Premier Members Credit Union gives you a bunch of those options. Unlike big banks, they're invested in their members and community, and they're a financial institution based right here in Colorado. Whatever your goals, they can help. Check out Premier Members Credit Union today. Get their reverse tier money market and get a bunch of great interest rates and things like that. It's a game changer for your finances and your life. So why not see what they can do for you? Again, check them out at becomepremier.com or the link in our description to learn more. Also brought to you by the wonderful folks over at Empire Today. If you need new flooring, just like we got here in studio and all of our sister sites, I know DLLS got Empire to do their floors too. You can get $350 off right now at empiretoday.com/DNVR just by using the DNVR code. Always a great deal here at DNVR, but tons of great options with Empire Today. They only carry the highest quality products, so you don't have to sift through a bunch of junk, whether it's carpet, hardwood, or tile. They've got you covered. They have expert installers as well, so you can get the best bang for your buck when it comes to your flooring for whatever you might need. You can schedule a free in-home estimate today, or if you want to go online, you can do some of their projection stuff. You can measure out your room, project the floor into a room to see what it looks like. And again, you'll get $350 off with promo code DNVR. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for more details, or of course, call 1-800-588-2300 Empire
Today.
There you go. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I don't know that there's a ton to say about this game, but we did get to hear from Coach Bednar in his presser post game. So let's see what he had to say about this one.
All right, questions for Jared?
Coach, those are obviously, you're looking at a lot of different things. You roll out a heavier lineup, but is this just a weird flow of the game and guys just still who haven't maybe played a ton getting back into that feel?
Well, for Mac, Mikko, and Kale, I think so. And I liked a lot of things that they did today. Like, they were the one line that didn't get hemmed in their own zone. They gave up one near the end of the game there on the deflection net front. But they did some good things, but not in, like, full game mode yet. And then there was a lot of challenges with some of the other parts to our group, so not the best night.
Am I reading too much into the? It feels like there's just a lot of penalties, and that's kind of a thing.
For the first period, I was like, it seemed like a really tough standard, but I mean, I haven't looked back at them. But that's kind of, the exhibition is for everyone to kind of get back into it, and the refs and linesmen are working on their standard and what they want to call, and usually at the start of every year, it's called tighter than as the year goes on. So I think we've come to expect that.
Seems like Kovalenko just continues to take steps. See a bright spot for you tonight?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I thought he was noticeable again. Like, he worked hard. He made plays. He made plays under pressure. He made plays coming out of the D zone, neutral zone, offensive zone. It wasn't perfect, but, I mean, power play, he was good again, had a bunch of really nice chances. He played with two really good players, and they, had a decent night with the puck at times. So, but certainly showed that he can at least go into that spot and help create some chances on his own and with his line mates,
He mentioned his mistakes that he made in the game. Is that something that, with talking about consistency, is that something that you guys can sit down with him and kind of just go over as far as
Yeah, no question.
consistency of his game has been?
No question. But that's 2 games in a row where I thought he's worked really hard. He's done the right things. He's played hard. I think tonight it's like you want to try and get Mac and Mikko the puck, so probably at times forcing it, a little bit. But when you're playing on that line, there's a responsibility to make plays, So and he made a lot of them, and he was on the receiving end of a lot of plays too. So I don't fault him for that. It's the first time playing with those guys, and you're wanting to, keep the puck and give it up to those guys as much as you can. And you do force it at times, and you can see that. But I thought, overall, that was a pretty good game from him in that position.
Given the way that your lines were formed throughout training camp, it kind of gave us the ability to continue to make these predictions of who the 2 wingers are that are going to play with Middlestat. Does a game like today from Kovalenko kind of give you the ability to think about splitting it up and having Drouin and Middlestat kind of spread the wealth between the 2 lines?
Yeah, we'll see. We still got 2 games left that we're going to experiment with the Middlestat line. So there's a couple of guys that I want to see on that line yet before we make decisions on that. But it's like, if you're talking top 6 guys, he's the one guy that's making the push for that position right now. It's not just the offensive side of it. That has a lot to do with it. First of all, you got to be able to make plays with those guys and help produce, and I think he's shown that he can do that in a short window, and hopefully that can continue. But he's been pretty responsible on the other side of the puck too, and you have to be, because if you're playing in top 6, you're probably playing against the other team's top 6 as well.
Is there anything, it's preseason and you haven't played a lot of your good players very much, but is there anything from this that you're concerned about that needs to be cleaned up over the next?
Well, there's lots that needs to be cleaned up, but I'm not going to jump the gun on that. We're going to make a lot of cuts, a lot, and then we'll dress a lineup that's closer to what we'll probably see in the final 2 games, and we'll go from there.
Last few ones.
MacKinnon's been skating on his own for a while. Is he getting any closer to that next step of where he might join the team for practice?
He's been joining the team in some of the non-contact drills here the last little bit, so I haven't got word on when he's going to get cleared for contact. I think we're trying to hold off on that as long as we possibly can and start carving out a date on when he would be able to play. So I think we're trying to give him as much time as possible without the contact. So, but again, when he gets cleared for it, I don't think it's going to take him long to get ready to be able to play, just because he's kind of doing everything else he possibly can.
Okay, guys, thank you.
All right, thank you. Yep.
So, JB, a game that was not particularly invested, probably even for the Avs, but still had some good things to say. Does bring us to our UCHealth extraordinary player of the game, at very least. I don't think we really have a moment of the game for a game like that one, but the player of the game, Nikolai Kovalenko, getting the didn't suck stat line, which is the best I can do for a game like this.
I like that.
I mean, look, obviously you just heard the praise from Jared Bednar on him. Yes, he didn't produce any points, but like we said, we're not really too concerned about the stat sheet with the night like this. What we did see out of Kovalenko was a guy that I don't think he's going to really be playing next to MacKinnon and Rantanen very much in the NHL, if we're being real.
Yeah.
But could play in the top 6 for you. Probably will for a little bit as they wait for Lehkonen to get healthy at the start of this year. He did a lot of things well. I thought you're asking for people to work a little bit harder. I thought he worked pretty hard on situations like forechecks with Mikko dumping in pucks. Thought he had a couple of good shifts and good reads. Probably should have scored a power play goal. Unfortunately, he kind of chunked that pass from Mikko a little bit on the back post. But for a tough game, that's a guy who looked pretty solid.
We were talking about the pecking order you were talking about, right? You know, he's clearly ahead of everybody else right now for that spot.
Definitively.
Correct?
Yeah.
I mean, that's correct. Correct. Not correct. He's shown, again, quiet first game, got way better, made plays in Dallas. Tonight, played with the big boys. Showed that he can dig pucks out. He can make plays. Again, whippy stick there.
Yep.
I don't know why. If it doesn't get whippy like that, he just puts it in the empty net. But I'm not worried about goals and assists. He looked like an NHL player, played like an NHL player. Low center of gravity, tank, just like his dad, actually. I played against his dad for years. It's the same thing. Clearly ahead of everybody else right now. Yep. I would say that it's not even close. People are going to be like, oh, my God, Cal, Richie. We're talking about playing the game, the 200-foot game and everything. I think Kovalenko's ahead of everybody else right now. In class by himself.
So I think this is an interesting conversation because, yes, I know Jared Bednar called him a top 6 player in his post game just now, but why he's ahead of everyone else? They want to give him the opportunity to show that skill in his top 6. But when you compare him to someone like Cal Ritchie, the way the Avs feel about Cal Ritchie right now is that top 6 spot isn't available. They don't know that he's ready to play a bottom 6 role in the NHL.
Exactly. And again, same with Kovalenko. They're not, doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound like they're going to be tinkering with the Wood, Colton, O'Connor line, right? So then that puts you
on the 4th
in the top.
line.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Or
It puts you in the top 6, and or else where else do you put do you put him? Like he's not there. Val, we're not going to go back, right? To Gabe. So now, where do you fit? He clearly is older a little bit. He's more mature.
Yeah.
He's been pro. Hockey blood. Dad was in the NHL for a long time. Knows how this works. And that's why I say he's clearly ahead of everybody. If I'm a coach, again, I always go back to coaches. They're only human. They're human.
Of course.
But they like their security blanket that we talk about. And if he can become that, if he can become dependable, I'm talking about Kovalenko, where unlike in the playoffs last year, which was tough circumstances, I think Bednar talked about it in his presser this morning. You come in those circumstances, it's a lot different than a preseason right now and then the start of a season, and show that you can be an NHL player, show that you can be counted upon, and then he can insert you anywhere he wants in the lineup. So I think he passed the test. And again, that's why I say he's so far ahead of everybody else right now. And when it comes down to that aspect.
Yeah, like you said, I really don't think it's that close to see who's earning the jobs for the Avs. And look, Kovalenko had the inside track from the beginning here. This isn't a big surprise. But it is nice to see one spot of light in some preseason hockey games that have been a whole lot of I don't care or, that was ugly.
And on the flip side of things, some guys lost jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's no sugarcoating it. And maybe they wouldn't have won those jobs, but they would have made those decisions a lot harder.
Yep.
I think games like tonight, again, not talking about Kale, I'm talking about guys fighting for roster spots. You make things a lot easier for a coaching staff or management to go. Again, I can't say the plane ticket anymore because Loveland's down the road, so they don't take plane tickets anymore.
It's a bus ticket now, buddy.
It's like, hey, show up for practice tomorrow at 10 a.m. in Loveland with Coach Nikolai. And it's a slap in the face when you get that, because your objective should always be that you want to be in the National Hockey League. If not, you shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Honestly, you shouldn't be here.
What are you doing?
Even a guy like Megna that's on an American League deal that's played a lot of NHL games, His goal, it's always there. Whoa, maybe they'll change their minds and give me an NHL deal. Like, that should be that way. Or else, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Why are you there?
Don't show up in the first place.
That's right.
Look, I don't think there's a whole lot of conversations to be had after this game's. You don't have to say anything to Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen and Makar. And they did what they needed to do. I think even the guys who didn't play well, someone like an Eric Brandstrom knows he wasn't any good in this game. It's not a big deal. There's not a whole lot of soul searching or anything like that needs to be done with the Avs. I will say, from a viewership perspective, it'd be nice if they could win a game.
Absolutely. Listen, coaches will always tell you, it's not a big deal. It was preseason. Of course. Yeah. I mean, but there's a competitive nature in you. There's a competitive nature in coaches. Competitive natures, or else you shouldn't be there. Yep. That always makes you wonder, hey, it sure would be nice to win games. It sure would be nice. But then again, it's no reason to call this a complete fiasco. Like I said, I didn't even know that it hadn't won a game. Remember I told you before the game, I didn't know they were 0-3. Yeah. And I watched all 3 games. So I don't put into a lot of, but you're right. Sometimes it is fun, like you said, viewmanship, and to see a little bit more production or things working out the right way, and guys having good nights, guys making it hard on coaches or management to make decisions on them, where on the flip side of things, it's easy on the other side. The wrong side. Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a quick final break here, and then we'll come back and wrap things up for you. All right. Final period. Look, preseason games, we're not caring about results, but what would you like to see the Avs do with 2 preseason games remaining?
I think Coach talked about it there in this presser, right? I think they're going to go there on the road, or like Giz talked about, they're going to have some meetings, have some good practice time together. You got to remember, there's a big difference between practicing with 50 guys, and of course not all 50 on the ice, but 2 groups of 25, and then you're just being more methodical, where all of a sudden you're going with, this is our group pretty much down to maybe 3-4 guys, right? Go from there, get some practice time, get some meeting times, get some individual meeting times, get some bonding together, the guys, go for dinner, right? Get to know one another before it starts. Of course, they'll do that next week too when they start the season. Somewhere, somehow, I'd expect the next 2 games to be a little bit more Avalanche hockey. We get out of our zone. We have puck possession, better lineup. We don't give up chances for no reason. We try to play the right way before the puck drop against Vegas on that opening night on the road. So I would expect a little bit more real hockey than what we've seen, and go from there.
So what you're saying there is less about offensive production, but more about tightening up the small things. Put it that way.
It's the stupidest answer from me that I'm going to give you right now, but you know that. Your best offense starts in your own end. And it just does.
I'm not saying the Avs don't need to tighten down those screws, but tonight could have been an entertaining game if they at least scored a couple more goals.
But then again, they never had the puck, right? So it's
you're not wrong.
Right? It's hard to score when you're chasing the puck. But anyway, I expect it to be a little bit more get down to business. Not that you don't get down to business from day one. You do. But right now you're tightening up the screws. You're, okay, guys, we're a week away or whatever it is from opening night. And let's start taking this a little bit more serious. Everybody got their legs together. Everybody's got into a game, except Joe. I think is Joe the only one? Druin?
Yeah, I think Druin's the last one of the regular stars. Casey played.
Oh, yeah, Casey played, yeah. He played with Richie on the right side of that one game, right? Anyway, I would expect a lot more intensity, a lot more real games in the sense that...
I guess Taves is the other one.
Taves didn't play a game yet. That's right. Anyway, we're getting down to business right now. They're probably going to play both now, where all of a sudden everybody kind of plays about 2 games each. Yeah, and again, I think coaches have a plan. Coaches have a plan for the next 72, whatever it is, 4 days coming up. And you go from there. come back from the road, you probably have a day off, and then, okay, let's get ready for that first game. Let's get on the jet. Let's get a real game where we go there the day before, go to sleep and attack that game and attack the season the right way.
All right. I'm going to give you this one time to talk about this for the preseason, and then you're not allowed to talk about it until the regular season starts.
Goaltending?
Correct.
I'm fine. I told you. I told you before the game. I don't really care about the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
I think it's more about feeling the pressures of a game, which it's not 60 minutes. It's in reality, it's about 2 hours and 45, 3 hours long, right? That's what it is from warm up to the Zamboni to game. I mean, it's just a lot. You got to deal with your body. How's your body feel? How you doing it in between periods to make sure that you're doing the right stuff to make sure you're not cramping. You're not, you go into your routine. That's what is for me. It was for Georgiev tonight. That's all it was. Made some good saves here and there. Feel the game. Feel the crease. Yeah, there's a couple goals that were whatever. They were what they were. But again, it's preseason. I'm not worried about it. And all of a sudden,
we're not melting down about a couple of pucks jumping out of his glove.
No.
Okay.
No. Just practice tomorrow. Make sure you catch them. I'm just kidding. I'm being sarcastic here.
All right. Well,
apologize.
Who knows? Tomorrow you're going to be pounding the table for the Avs to go get Jeremy Swayman on our show. So we'll see.
But I think your job as a GM is to look what do you have out there that makes your team better. That's up to them to decide. Does that make them better? Or like you say, can you make it work? Or do you like even having that type of roster with a goalie at $8 million plus, right? I mean, it's a choice, right? So
Yep.
Doesn't mean that you're right or I'm wrong and you're wrong, right, or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, tonight I don't put any stock in this.
Yeah.
0.
I know, but good to reiterate that you should not be overly concerned about anything when it comes to preseason results.
No, what I'm worried about, though, is those young guys trying to make an impression, trying to make a team.
Well, they have something to play for. While someone like
Absolutely.
Georgiev, there is nothing.
There's
to play
nothing
for
to play
in the
for. He
preseason.
played 60 games last year.
Yeah.
It's all good. I'm not worried about him. But I'm worried about it. I want to see a little more from guys that are trying to crack the lineup. I've always, I was one of those guys. So that's why I always pull for it, because it's like, it's out there for you to take.
Yep.
If you don't take it, well, somebody else will,
Score any preseason power play goals, Eric?
No. I was told that I would never be on the ice.
Well, some of these guys scoring goals for the Avs on the power play aren't going to be on the ice for special teams either. So
Exactly.
it is what it is. I don't know.
I'm with you.
I don't think there's a whole lot more we need to go into on a preseason game like this, but just to cover all of our bases, look, should we care a little bit more about these last two games? With what Jared Bednar said about, hey, we're going to be a lot bit closer to having a real NHL lineup.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, the last preseason game against Utah, for some teams, the season will have started. They'll have played in a regular season game.
Right. You're right.
Is there at least a reason to get a little bit more hype about those games? Or is it all just details?
I'm going to give you the same answer as I said this morning. Pregame. About the sneeze, sorry. This is unreal.
Bless
about
you.
The sneeze.
Can't do it.
Hold on.
Can't get it together.
The nose is crooked. Look, it's crooked.
That means you're about to say something crazy. That's what that
No.
means.
I'm going to give you the same answer, which is I don't care about the score of this next two games. I care about the process.
So no. You're saying there's no
That's right.
hype
I don't
here.
care about the score. I don't care if you go 0-6 in preseason. It doesn't matter, right? They went 6-0 and they got 48 points. So it's not important. But you want the guys to amp it up a little bit? Bring your heart rate up a little bit, whether now you're a guy trying to make it and then Mikko or Mac or Kale, you know what I mean? Bring it up, pace a little bit. So the first game in Vegas, you're not, this was nuts. This was an opening night. It's kind of like a playoff game. I've always said that about opening nights because your energy's so pumped up and you're in a building usually that's sold out, that's crazy, and whoever you're on the road or at home, and it's like there's a lot of energy. So it feels like a playoff game. You know what I mean? Intensity usually goes down a little bit, game 2, 3. But opening night is a big night. So you want to make sure your brain and your body is ready to go and to be able to maintain that
Can
cadence.
be in the rhythm. Yeah.
That's right.
TNT also interviewed Chris McFarland during the intermission. He did say they're kind of still in the same situation with Gabe Landeskog in a wait-and-see mode for how things develop. Can you really glean anything from that? Do you think there's hey, he might not play too early in the season from that, or is that just is what it is?
I think we've done a good job leaving it alone, right? Not speculating. I think we're going to leave it at that again. But I mean, again, I think we'll give the same answer that we've been saying all summer. We don't expect Gabe Landeskog to be near the lineup in that first month, and who knows about that second month or a third month? I don't know, but I think the time will tell when he's ready, and unfortunately, it won't be next week. So that's all we've always been said. Then we'll keep it at that and go from there.
Yep. It is what it is. We are going to wrap up today's show. Before we do, though, make sure you are checking out our YouTube channel tomorrow. We're dropping our full division previews for the entire league, so you can come make fun of us when you think we're wrong. Or maybe we'll be right. Who knows?
I'm always right.
No one's betting on Buffalo this year, I'll tell you that. I convinced them that was
No, I made
dumb.
a mistake last year.
It should be a good video series. You're going to want to watch that tomorrow. And join in on the live podcast, 1:45 p.m. That's our new off-day time slot, 15 minutes early. So don't be late. We appreciate y'all, and we will talk to you in the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.